Fox Oldies, 11:50 a.m. We're back on the show with Hector and Abel. And Hector, introduce our special guest.
Okay, I want to mention that Stephanie Townsend Allala is still with us on the phone, so she'll be joining in the conversation. And I do want to welcome our guest, State Representative Naomi Gonzalez from District 76. Welcome back to the program.
Yes, well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You haven't been...
Long time no see.
You haven't been with us in a while. The last time that you were here, I was wearing the Lucha Libre talk radio mask.
Yes.
She was very uncomfortable by that, by the way.
Well, but she was not intimidated. You know, sometimes I would wear it to see if the guests would get a little intimidated. But no, you were very cool, calm, and collected. And I'm hopefully I'll get another mask design so that I can wear it in the future. There's a lot of things to talk to you about relating to your role as a state representative.
Yes,
but
sir.
first, I'd like to begin by talking about a great event that you're doing for the children, particularly of the Child Crisis Center.
That's correct.
A toy drive for Christmas. Tell us all about that.
Yes, well, we are seeking to get 100 toys for children between the ages of 2 and 13 years. We are collecting. The office is collecting the toys between now and December 20th. And so really what we want to do is collect these toys for the Child Crisis Center, and the main program is the Circle of Love Nursery, which is the children's shelter. And this program provides 24/7 emergency shelter for families that are experiencing crisis. And they offer, so many programs, but this one is really for families, and they offer support for them, that these families that really need to stabilize themselves and support them and just their immediate situation. And so that's what we are offering for these families. So anyone that wants to drop off a toy for children between the ages of 2 and 13 can do so between our office hours, which is 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Our address is 6044 Gateway East, and it's Suite 818. Our office number is 775-9937, and again, it's just an unwrapped gift for both boys and girls. And the office address again is 6044 Gateway East, Suite 818. The office number 775-9937. And our office hours are 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. We are collecting from now until December 20th. And our goal is 100 toys for these children that are very deserving of having happiness during the Christmas season.
That's the one that Al Velarde runs, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, what's interesting about that, because I didn't realize this, but because of the lack of foster parents, they take care of a lot of foster kids like under a contract.
Yes.
Which is, wow, I was really amazed how many kids are out there, and we went out and covered something because one of our, I think Viva Auto Group gave a good donation to them, and started hearing some of the stories and seeing the kids, man. It just, I only had one and he's great and all that, but seeing these little kids and like this little girl introducing me to her brother, who was the smaller one, like not understanding, the situation she's in, and they do a good job over there. They do
a great job, and keeping in mind that, foster care redesign is coming to our region rather quickly. And so, that's going to change here in a couple of months, a couple of months or up to another year. And so a lot of these children, are in crisis. They're separated from their families. They're separated from their parents. And so anything that we can do as a community to just help them feel loved during this season when they may be separated from their parents and their families. I think anything that we can do to help that situation as a community would be very helpful.
As a member of the Human Resources Committee, you're very much involved in issues relating to underprivileged families, children. You mentioned foster children. That's an issue that is very big right here on our program. One of our frequent callers and contributors is involved in foster care. You're aware of who I'm talking about, Robert.
Yes.
And of course, Representative Marisa Marquez has also been very much involved in that issue, and including the issue of over-medication of foster children. As you say, they're in crisis.
And actually...
sometimes medication is used to numb them, right?
Luckily, I luckily passed a bill this session, House Bill 915, which suits our area code, that completely revamps the way that we go about medicating our foster children throughout the state. Because what we found through many studies, of course, because governments love to study everything to death, is that we were not doing a very good job of making sure that children who are in foster care, what we found was that they're on several medications, but the foster parents, were not being informed properly about what their foster children were on. And so what House Bill 915 is intending to do, and hopefully will do, is make sure that foster parents are informed as to what the medication their foster children are taking. They have to be seen by a doctor when the medication changes, and the doctors have to be able to justify the reason as to why the child is on the medication that they are going to be prescribed. And so it's not this sort of prescribe in a willy-nilly fashion as we had seen before. So,
she is the vice chair, by the way, of the Health and Human Services Commission, right, under the top leadership there.
Yes, sir.
And I got to ask you some questions. SNAP.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about that, and how now with that extra money that we're getting, it's going down. But not only that, but you got these the Human Services Department, also dealing with the healthcare issues of Obamacare. Can you talk a little bit about those two things?
That's a heavy topic. Yes. So what we and what I fought for heavily during the session is to make sure that we have an efficient way of making sure that families are utilizing and making sure that we are enrolling as many people that we can into SNAP programs. Because what we find, especially in a district like I represent and many of my colleagues represent, is that we have families that definitely need to be enrolled in the SNAP program. So making sure that we are seeking the families that need these programs, and making sure that there is an efficient delivery of the program itself. Now, when we talk about Obamacare, especially in the state of Texas, that gets to be a much stickier issue because, as we know, our governor did not want to accept the
did not set up an exchange.
Did not set up an exchange, did not want to accept the billions of dollars that were available to us to expand on Medicaid, and did not want to accept the fact that the Affordable Care Act was coming whether we liked it or not, depending on what side of the aisle you fall on. And so what the federal government had to do regardless is set up the exchanges for us. And so that puts us in a precarious situation. Now, whether you agree with the Affordable Care Act or not, it's here.
It's law. It's been law since 2010.
Exactly. And so, sitting on human services, what I have had to fight for, and what I did fight for, is, expending more money for women's health care programs, spending more money on making sure that healthcare and healthcare for those that are in the working poor segment of our population are being expended and being spent. and not only being spent, but being spent in a way that is an efficient and proper delivery, because it's not just enough to spend it, because if it's not being spent properly, then it's not being used properly.
Right.
And so that's one of the things that I've had to be an advocate for, because, you know, my background is one where I was part of the working poor. My mother was part of the working poor. Growing up as a single, in a single parent household, I saw my mom just working at one point for her health insurance, and that was not pleasant. And so those memories make me an advocate for the people that I represent and for the people across Texas that are in those similar situations. And
Motivates you.
Yeah, and that's why I feel very honored that I was put as a sophomore in the vice chair position, because I feel that I can advocate on behalf of the people that I represent and on behalf of the people of Texas that are in similar situations that I grew up in.
What about staff size? I mean, you're offering these programs and all that, and what actually I believe that department is suffering from was the fact that they let a lot of people retire early a long time ago over software issue, software that was supposed to really make everything streamlined, and call centers and everything was discussed, and yet the software never worked. And these people that were the workforce that you had there is extremely, you guys are working with skeleton.
That's partially true. When I first became the representative, they changed to a sophomore program. They changed to a software program that was significantly better than what was in place before, and so it did help streamline the enrollment process. And actually, the enrollment process and the software program started here in El Paso. And so it got a little bit better, and they are dedicated, some of the agencies are dedicated to making sure that they're constantly improving the process to make sure that the people are being served as best as they can. That being said, every time there is a cut to these agencies, we lose a full-time employee. And that does not help the situation, obviously.
Sure.
But it is incumbent upon representatives like myself to make sure that we stay as in touch as we can to our constituents, to make sure that they're being served, and when we hear their complaints, that we put them in touch with the right agency to make sure that they are getting the help that they need.
Let me ask Stephanie, before you run off, Stephanie, would you like to direct a question to the representative?
I do. Thank you so much, Representative, and thank you, Hector and Abel. I'm always honored. Whenever I have the honor of asking an elected leader, a state leader, this, I always want to bring up my topic, which is the Medicaid Estate Recovery Program. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, but it's a program that the state of Texas uses as a bludgeon to scare people out of getting the health care they need. There are so many good citizens who need and deserve this program, but the state of Texas says, well, if you're going to get Medicaid for a nursing care or nursing home, we're going to take your house when you die. That's not the case. If you get a good lawyer, no one loses their house. But it scares enough people into not getting it that I wish that we could just do away with the program altogether. In my legal opinion, it was implemented in a way that is a violation of the state constitution. And I just believe that if there's something really wrong with the program that takes $15 million worth of little viejitos homes every year and costs $22 million a year to operate.
Yes, it's a horribly inefficient program, and as you well know, Stephanie, it essentially makes people wards of the state. And you being and work heavily in estate planning, if you are not savvy, it really does run amok with estate planning. And what ends up happening, and what I've seen in certain individuals, is in some cases it creates creative estate planning for the individuals, because certain individuals cannot take, or they feel that they cannot take under estate planning. If an individual wants to leave someone a house that is on Medicaid, sometimes certain attorneys give people advice saying, well, they really can't if they're on Medicaid because if something happens to them, then
That's absolutely not the truth.
Well, I understand that, but you know that there's that misconception out there.
Right. You're right. People are mistaken, and they think that's the truth. It is absolutely not the case.
Right.
You don't become a ward of the state. Not one of my clients has ever lost a home to the Medicaid Estate Recovery Program because the way it was implemented, it has so many loopholes. A good lawyer can get you through them. The problem is these poor people they're afraid of lawyers. They're afraid of talking to lawyers, and so they don't. They just believe the state. When they send them a letter saying, give us your home, they give up the home. They don't even ask a question. The state sends this letter to everybody who dies. Wow. They send this letter to the loved ones of everyone who dies saying, we're going to come to take your home. You shouldn't be, I believe, that's a violation of the Federal Fair Debt Collection Act. You can't tell somebody they owe a debt when they don't owe it. Yet the state willy-nilly sends this debt letter to every single person who dies having had Medicaid. And it doesn't even apply to the majority of them. But you're absolutely right. There's so much ignorance. It's actually my specialty in my business is Medicaid. What you have to end up doing is when I do Medicaid planning, I do a living probate.
Right, yes.
And I'm glad you brought up the estate planning issue because I probate their estate while they're alive. That's the easiest way to avoid the MRF.
Stephanie, I know that you have to go, but would you give the audience your phone number if anyone should want to get in touch with you relating to elder law?
Thank you so much. And thank you again, Representative Gonzalez. I appreciate all your work to help the elderly through this program. Yeah, my number is 915-533-0007. Thank you so much, and I appreciate it.
Well, wait a minute, Stephanie. And next week you will also be with us. Next week you'll also be with us together with David Yates, who's an expert on estate planning, to talk about Medicaid and estate planning and everything like that. So we look forward to that next week.
And that is something, of course, that we will continue to work on in future sessions to make sure that this is something that we address on a continual basis. And, of course, as you know, Stephanie, Rome wasn't built on a day, and this is something. No, it's an ongoing process. And
elder law attorneys, and we'd be happy to work with you, Representative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephanie.
880-4376 if you want to get in and ask some questions. It is political season, and pretty much it is what it is. And people run early, and some announce early. And,
Before we get into the campaign, though, do you want to get into it already?
Okay, obviously I don't.
Well,
so go ahead.
What I want to say is, I had told the representative we were going to do this in kind of stages. So before we go to the issue of talk about the upcoming campaign, the previous legislative session, in addition to the bills that we already talked about, what do you see as your accomplishments during that last session? And I know that you work very closely with the delegation. What do you feel that as a group you accomplished as well?
Personally, I wanted, we accomplished a lot as a group, from making sure that, I'm going to stay away from that particular bill because it's sort of become a hot topic bill, and I don't want to cause any more grief than necessary. But generally, we really did accomplish a lot as a whole. I really want to talk about something that I feel very proud about, and that's Texas Tech. Mm-hmm. The Texas Tech Medical School is something that was huge for the community. Senator Rodriguez and I worked on that, and that was something that took a lot of struggle on the House side because it required more than a 2/3 vote. I mean, it required a 2/3 vote. It was not a simple majority vote. And so it was just it was huge to get that passed, and I think that's going to be a huge economic driver for the community in the long run. And I'm very proud of that bill. Very proud of that bill.
You want to go ahead and let her talk to one of the callers?
Yeah, we have a caller on the line. Let's go to Susie. Susie, you're on 1150 Fox Oldies. Go ahead.
Hello, Hector Abel. And
hello, Susie.
I want to say thank you to Naomi Gonzalez for doing such a great job in the Texas legislature.
Thank you, Susie.
She has done more in the 4 years that she's been in that office than Norma did in the 14. And I'm very proud that Naomi Gonzalez puts the community above petty politics.
Oh, well, Susie.
She's not selfish.
Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate your support. And I'm very lucky to be where I am, and I just and I'm incredibly humbled that I really get to live the American dream, to come from where I came from, to be one of the 150 in the state of Texas, to get to make policy decisions. It's not every day that someone gets to do that, and so I'm very fortunate. So thank you very much, Susie. I appreciate that.
And I think that Marcus is doing a great job, too. And thanks to redistricting, I am now represented by Marissa Marcus instead of Joe Pickett, that never came down to the Northeast unless he had an opponent and it was election time. So I want to thank you two, and hold your heads up high, because you all beat long-term incumbents, and you all have done more for this community than those two incumbents did in the years that they were on there, because they put petty politics and their selfishness ahead of the community, and that's a fact.
Thanks for calling, Susie.
Thank you so much.
880-4376. Lines are open. Give us a call.
During the session, well, there was of course a special session.
Yeah, that wasn't so special, but yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, there were three special sessions. The first one that was put on call was allegedly having to deal with redistricting. And so that's what we took up. Then the governor decided to put up a more contentious issue having to deal with reproductive rights. And then that
was historical.
Yeah, that was historical.
That was good.
And then that got shot down, and then it got brought back up again in a second special session. And we all know what happened there. And then on top of that, we also had to deal with transportation funding. Transportation funding did not go very well that first time around, and so we had to deal with it again in a third special session. And so we dealt with that. It eventually passed, and so it'll be on a constitutional amendment package in November 2014. So the voters will decide whether or not they want to spend $2 billion to give to TxDOT to deal with the infrastructure of our transportation system in the state of Texas. So that's what ended up happening with our three special, not so special sessions, which frankly I think was sort of a waste of taxpayer money. But that's
also a partisan politics, so you can't can't deny that.
No, you can't deny that. What happened with reproductive rights in the state of Texas was really so partisan. You couldn't get any more partisan than that.
And calling in the cops, and dragging people out of the state capitol.
Those are memories that I will never forget as long as I live. And it was really a shame that it had to get to that level. And of course, what we're seeing now in the court system is at least in the lower courts, that was found to be unconstitutional. Fifth Circuit said, just go ahead with what's on the books. This is going to go up to the level of the Supreme Court, where I think it'll be found to be unconstitutional ultimately, but that's just my opinion.
Another issue I'd like to ask you about is one of the bills that you filed relating to predatory lenders. Mm-hmm. But first, let's go to the phone calls.
Let's go to Bill. Bill, you're on 1150 Fox Oldies. Go ahead.
Hello, Abel, Hector, and Representative Marcus.
Hello, Bill.
Representative Gonzalez. We get that a lot, actually.
Hi. Yes, y'all were talking about Robert's issue, which I share, about the psychotropic drugs given to our children.
Yes, sir.
And I don't know if you're aware, Representative Marcus, that our own...
Gonzalez.
Gonzalez.
Gonzalez. I'm sorry.
We all look alike.
I'm sorry about that.
Go ahead.
Gonzalez, excuse me. Y'all got them mixed up. At UMC, they're giving psychotropic drugs for schizophrenics to older people to control them. And I think it's a big mistake giving drugs like Haldol and Prolixin to elderly people to control them. And I'm seeing that's routinely done at UMC.
And you know what? I'm glad that you brought that up, Bill, because that is an issue that I am finding more and more about, and it's not just UMC. I'm finding out that this is happening in nursing homes. I'm finding out that this is happening in rehab centers, and this is an issue that if I'm fortunate enough to be reelected, that I do want to take back to the House and bring up again. Should I land on human services, even if I don't land in human services, take up as a bill, because I think that it's quite important, and I'm hearing a lot about this from the community. So I will be addressing this in the next legislative session.
And those that don't know, drugs like Prolixin and Haldol, which are very long-lasting, it's virtually zombieized.
Yes.
I hate to interrupt you, but we got another caller, and we need to get to him too. I'm sorry. Thanks for your call. Let's go to Frank. Frank, you're on 1150 Fox Oldies with Naomi Gonzalez, representative. Go ahead.
Muchas gracias. Ms. Gonzalez, I want to clarify one thing. You're not lucky that you're there. You're a hard worker, and take credit for it.
Thank you, sir.
Luck comes to those that work and make their own luck.
Well, thank you, Frank. I do appreciate that, and yes, you can ask my staff, you can ask my family. I do work hard, but I do it because I enjoy what I do, and I really do enjoy the community that I represent, because it's a community that gave me so much, and so
you're very welcome.
Thank
My
you.
next thing is this: I'm.
We got a minute, Frank. Quickly.
Trying to get the grass back into the National Cemetery. There's only 3 in America.
Yes, sir.
Hundreds that are here. In the United States. The one in El Paso, Silver City, and there's one in Arizona. I want the grass back, not for the dead. It's not for them. It's for the living, so they can go in there and kneel down, sit down, and spend some time with their loved ones. Isn't it funny that when you go into the cemetery, you have grass on the right side, grass on the left side. They're not full of weeds or flowers and trees. And as a matter of fact, there's one tomb there, and it belongs to General William L. Bliss, the namesake of Fort Bliss.
Well,
Hey, Frank, we're at the end of the hour.
I can try to work on that and see if I can work with the congressman's office. I can't promise anything, but I can try to work on it, and I do understand that, since my grandfather is buried there at that cemetery as well.
We're going to come back and finish up with her after the top of the hour news.
What did you say your call letters were?
KHRO El Paso.